Hello friends, welcome to JavaEE EJB JPA tutorial. You are watching part 10 of the subseries JPA relation one-to-many and many-to-one. In this video, we will create HTML as well as JSP form to fetch the employee information into the browser so that user can edit the employee. So let's quickly review the previous videos. So this is the bean layer changes we implemented in the previous video. Now we will go ahead with the edit employee workflow. Here if you see, we will create a HTML form. The bean layer was already ready in the previous video. Now we are going with the front end, that means HTML and JSP. We are creating a form. The h1 tag is edit employee. Form action takes place on edit employee.jsp. So this one is the HTML file. Method is post, and if you see, we have only one input field and one submit field. So here we are tagging that as enter employee ID. Type is a text and name we are giving it as emp ID. So user will provide the employee ID, then they will click the submit button. Input type is submit. Value and name is get. So they will get the employee, or they will retrieve the employee based on the employee ID, and this information flows to the edit employee JSP. That means edit employee JSP will perform the fetching. So here is the edit employee JSP form, and this one is the form, HTML form, which we saw in the previous slide. So first we are getting the parameter for emp ID. Here is the emp ID, and we have that emp ID in the string. Next we create the initial context. We saw this many times, and using the initial context lookup method, we retrieve the emp job bean remote, which is implementing the emp job bean. And in the previous video we added a new functionality. So once we have the remote bean proxy in hand, employee job bean remote, this is the emp job EJB emp job, that's the remote interface. We make call to emp find by ID, and we provide employee ID. Employee ID is coming from this HTML flowing to this JSP, and we are using that, and we are sending it to the bean layer. Bean layer will make use of entity manager find method, and it retrieves the employee. Once the employee is in hand, we make a call to query jobs. So this query job will retrieve all the jobs in the job table, and we have that as a list of a job. This list is from java.util package, and single job, this is for iteration purpose, we just declared it. Now we have list of job ready. So this is the one, list of job is ready. So all the jobs in the job table is collected here as a collection of entity, job entity. So this is just for reference, the HTML form. Alright, so Here, once we collected the information from the previous slide, if you see, we have employee emp based on the emp ID, it was queried, and we have list of jobs as well. Now we are making use of the emp. Here in the JSP file, we are forming the h1 tag edit employee. So this will get displayed to the user, and form action takes place in the edit employee servlet. If you see here, this one submits the information to our JSP, and JSP will populate the field and submits the information to employee servlet. Right? So here we are forming the input field. These are all the static text: employee ID, first name, middle name, last name, job level, and job we will populate here, that we will go later. Now we will look at here. Input name is emp ID, first name, middle name, last name, job level, all are text field. Size we provided. Then value, if you see, for all the input field, text input field or HTML text field, we are setting the value property, and value property we are using the JSP expression. For example, you just consider here percentage equal to emp ID. Emp ID we already have, so that's why we are directly populating it. Why? Because emp ID is flowing from the HTML file. Other information, if you see, we make use of the employee entity and getter method. Emp.get first name, this will retrieve the first name, and this is a JSP expression language, percentage equal to, and we substitute that to the value property. This way we are populating the text field with the retrieved employee information. So here we just populate only the employee information. So this employee information is for edit purpose. Now we need to populate the combo box also. This time when we are populating the combo box, we need to pre-select the job role the current employee is playing. So whatever employee we populate here, the employee who performs the job, that also we need to pre-select it. Of course we need to load all the jobs, but we should pre-select a specific job which the current employee or the fetched employee is playing. Alright, so here we are forming the loop. This is just like the previous, when we created a new so we already populated the job, right? The same way we have to populate. So jobs is the collection which we saw in the previous slide. We are making use of that and we are iterating it here in the for loop. And for each job, jobs.get index. So jobs is nothing but a util package list, right? So we are making use of the get method and we are passing the index and we are retrieving a single job. Then job.get job ID equal to emp.get job ID. So there are two information here. One is we have two information in hand, right? One is employee entity we have. Based on ID, we fetched this entity. Then we have a list of jobs entity. So it is collected in an array. That's what we are iterating here in this for loop, right? So first let us look at this part, and this one is the second part. In the first part, based on the index, we already retrieved the specific job entity. Let's say this is the entity retrieved. From there we are getting the job ID. This is the entity, right? Once entity is returned job, this is job entity, it will have an ID and other field, job description, minimum and maximum level of experience. We are picking this ID, then we are comparing it with the information is fetched, right? This will have employee first name, middle name, last name, then it will have the job ID as well. So we are comparing if this employee, say for example 12 is here playing a role of editor, that's what we are checking. Here there may be multiple job roles, so when there is a match editor job, then we set a string cell equal to selected, cell equal to selected. Next we populate the option. This is the select, right? Select tag name, we are giving it as a job. Select contains option. This is a pure HTML. We already saw this in one of our previous video on this 11 video part. Select, then comes option, and option value you can provide the description. Then if you marked it as a selected, then this specific option by default gets selected in the combo box. So that's what we are doing here. Option value, we are populating it from the job, whatever we are iterating. Then if there is a match, we are making use of this string cell, so we are populating it. By default it will have empty, but when there is a matching job ID, here it will get replaced as a selected. That's all. And after this option, inside the body text we are giving the job description. So value is job ID, what user will see is the job description, and when there is a match we are setting the attribute as selected. So this will help in picking the current job. Say for example, if the employee is playing the editor LVL1, that will get selected by default, and when user clicks, all other jobs are displayed. So to achieve this only, we are making use of this condition, and we make cell as selected, then we are populating that attribute here within this option tag. So option tag opens here, and option tag end here. This one is different. This is for JSP expression language to say or to print selected as part of the attribute. Alright, once this is done, then we create the submit field. Now it's demo time. We will go ahead and implement this. So we will close these two which we implemented in the previous video. Now we will create the HTML file. New HTML file. So that's the name we are giving, edit employee HTML5. So in the body tag, we provided a heading, edit employee, then we created a form. Inside the form we have two input, one is text and another one is submit. So we will start the server. So we will open Internet Explorer. Here we will add EJB EAR. We will wait to see the deployed message. So here we are seeing deployed. Now it's time to go with the HTML file, edit employee. So here is the HTML file, and if you see in this HTML file, we will simply provide the employee ID. So we will provide this ID here, then we will click the get button. So once you click get, employee information will get fetched, and the form action takes place in edit employee JSP. So we will create this JSP file as well. Edit employee.jsp. Click next, new JSP file, JSP with HTML markup. That's the template we are choosing. Then click on finish. So first we will put the required page directive. Code you can download from the video description. Initial context to retrieve the remote object. List java.util.list. This is to maintain the collection of jobs. We need to populate that in the combo box, right? So we need a collection of a list. Then emp job being remote. So this is what we retrieve using this initial context. Then we need entity employee as well as job. So both these entities are required here in this JSP file. Next, inside the body tag, we retrieve the parameter for emp ID. This is the emp ID, right? So emp ID, this is the input field. Name is emp ID, that is flowing to our JSP file, and we kept that in a string. After that, we make use of our initial context and we retrieve the remote object. Then we make call to emp find by ID. So entity manager will find the employee by ID. The retrieved information will be kept in the emp entity. So this we will use in the below section. Before that, we make a call to the same EJB emp job, right, which provides a functionality for query jobs, and we retrieve all the jobs and store that in the list. So at this stage we have both entity. This is a single employee entity which we want to edit, and this is a list of job. Suppose if employee want to change the job, or if as a user we want to change the role of the employee, we can make use of this list and pick a new job role from that list. Alright, now we will proceed. This is where we left, and here we are populating the form field data. So far in the body, we doesn't populate any HTML information, we just retrieve the content. Here we retrieved the employee entity. Here we retrieved the collection of jobs entity, collection of job entity. Then here we provide the h1 tag, edit employee form. Then we populate the information as already explained in the PowerPoint slide. We populate the field, and if you see for value attribute, we are specifying the information retrieved from this employee. Emp dot get first name. We are making use of the getter method, right? This emp is retrieved using the remote proxy. So using the remote proxy, emp find by ID, we retrieve the employee, and that employee we are using here to populate the field. For that, in HTML, we are using the value attribute. Usually, we won't consider value attribute when we are collecting the fresh information. So the text field becomes empty. But here we are populating the text field with the value attribute. So what we are populating is decided by the fetch. Here employee ID we are fetching, and this employee ID is coming from our previous edit employee from here, right? All right, next here we have the job array, right? We are iterating through that job array. We are populating the select. Select is the combo box, and which contains a multiple option field. That's why you are seeing option field inside this for loop. And when we are iterating through each job, we are making sure the job collection, we are iterating one by one, right? We are making sure that this job collection is matching, the job collection job ID is matching with the employee job ID. So if that is the case, we set this cell string as selected. So in each iteration, we are forming this option, right? For a single matching job, we will get, say for example, option value equal to editor. If the employee is playing that job, then here we will place a selected. So this way, by default, we select a specific job role in the combo box field. Finally, we have a submit button. So here we are forming the form, right? The action takes place in the edit employee servlet that we will do in the next video. Now we will save all. Here it is started and synchronized, and if you want, you can restart it. Here if you see, this one is not showing synchronized, so it looks for republish. So what I'm doing here, I'm right clicking it and doing a full publish again. We are seeing undeployed, we have to wait. Okay, now we are seeing deployed. So this is the time we have to launch. So in between, if you launch, you may end up with unwanted error. You have to provide time for Eclipse to undeploy and then deploy the EAR files. All right, now we will clear it. Now we will go to the edit employee HTML, run as run on server, or it is already here. We'll just do one refresh. We will pick a random employee. His job ID is 10. That means production manager. That's the job he's doing, he or she. Okay, forgot the job ID. This time I will copy it here. Job ID is 2. Two is Chief Executive Officer. Once again, picked a wrong employee. There may be only one person who is playing that role. We'll execute here. Okay, this is the record created by us, and we will pick this. Once again, Chief Executive Officer. All right. Now here I'm placing this employee ID. We can provide more room. but this requires republishing again. We'll go with full publish. Full publish means it will undeploy then deploy. So you are seeing undeployed in the bottom line. We will wait for some more time, and you are seeing deployed here. Now we will go ahead and refresh it. We'll place the same employee ID and we'll click on get. So this get will go to JSP file, and if you see, it fetched the information: first name, middle name, last name, 210, and by default it picked Chief Executive Officer. Now we will pick some other employee just for testing purpose. This is something 16, or what is this, 14. Designer. All right, now we will go back, refresh, and if you see, Karin F. Josephs, Karin F. Josephs, for this is the employee. The information is fetched rightly. ID Karin, mid-name F, Joseph, job level is 100, current job level is 100. Okay, now if you see here in the combo, by default this designer is displayed. This time here we doesn't display the expected job level, but in the previous demo we kept experience demand as well. Now what the goal here is, if you want to change the name, you can change, and you can change the job level, then you can pick a new job role, then click submit. This is the way we want to edit the employee form. That we will do in the next video. Why? Because the edit employee servlet, which is not yet ready, which we will implement in the next video. So this is the dynamic content formed by our JSP file, and you can see that if you see, there are multiple job roles. For one role we will see selected. You see here, selected 14, and the role is a designer. Alright, now we will close this IE. We will remove it. This will perform. We should have stopped it first, but that's okay. Here it is undeployed. Then here we are stopping it. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.